throw down. Heartbeats racing, can't slow down. Feel the tension, feel the heat. Emotions hitting on repeat. Wrestling without.
Hey guys, good afternoon. Happy Sunday to you. Get the fan popping in here. Hope you're doing well. You're listening to Wrestling with Emotions. Thanks for tuning in. Should be a quick one today, and I know I say that on top of we haven't done one of these in a little while. I'll be honest with you, motivation is at a minimum recently, and it's mostly because, and we'll talk about this today, and I buried the lead basically the last podcast, but I'm watching AEW on a regular basis. I'm following the main threads when it comes to the WWE storyline, especially mostly just the main event scene. But man, I am lacking the motivation to talk about it because I don't think anybody wants to just listen to an AEW-centric podcast. And I think, even though I would love to just maybe focus that way, I don't want this to be a... I've stated this from the beginning. I don't want this to be a tribalistic podcast. I love everything right now that AEW is doing. But I even said this maybe a couple of weeks ago. There was a time last year when it was just like they were running on fumes for some of these weeks with what they were kind of putting together. Aside from the pay-per-views, which we've talked about before, consistently being really good, the week-to-week programming has struggled. But they course-corrected, went to, they started going into different arenas that were really sized appropriately. They're doing the really cool residency right now. I think it just ended with Dynamite and Collision this week. The old ECW stomping grounds. I thought that was really cool. The venue looked awesome. I think it was shot super well for TV as well. And I thought it just gave a really cool feel and something to look forward to on Wednesdays. I love when they do different things like that. They've shot in a couple of different odd-looking venues that you wouldn't traditionally kind of look and say, oh, this is perfect for wrestling. But the one looked like the one previous one that had a residency. It looked like the inside of a Mexican restaurant in Tucson, where it had like all these different like balconies and alcoves, and it was odd looking, but it was a very cool venue. They had balconies, and they were able to utilize that pretty well for a lot of their segments. Actually, I think Darby Allin did a couple spots out there, and Tony Storm and others cutting promos from the balconies. But aside from that, I haven't really. I've watched a little bit of WWE. I'm obviously aware and excited that AJ Lee is back. I think, again, maybe it's the era that we're in. But some of these things are like the worst kept secret eventually when they do end up popping up on TV. And a part of that, I think, was intentional as well. If you're not following this, and I know we're a couple of weeks behind now, obviously, because she's since not only appeared on SmackDown, but she showed up on Raw on Monday, cut a promo as well. And set the table basically for their match that's going to be at WrestlePalooza next weekend. I want to say next weekend. Yes, next weekend. Outside of that, I can't tell you really anything from the card. I think, what did Cody Rhodes just come back? And I forget, who is he challenging? Drew McIntyre? That'll probably be good. And then of course the main event for that match that night will be Cena versus Brock Lesnar. I don't know the other matches for that, but I'm not going to be watching. I'm not going to watch. I'm going to watch AEW. I'm going to watch All Out. And even though they staggered the times to give you the opportunity to watch both, I'm not going to pay the $29.99 to watch those matches. And like I've said before, don't worry. Tune in Monday. They'll give you a flashy recap, and same thing for Friday. So if you missed it, you'll be able to essentially watch it. My Peacock is gone. That has expired as well with the last Clash in Paris, which I didn't even watch. So yeah, I'm burned out on it. And this week, I think, totally encapsulated the feelings and brought everything to a boil, to where I'm finished with it. And I say that right now because I've been at this point too, not from a frustration standpoint, more so from a boredom standpoint in the past. There were some lean years from a storytelling standpoint where number one, I got out of it pretty early on at a high school because I was just never around. I had joined the military. I was gone. It wasn't like we were allowed to watch TV for about, 8 or 9 weeks. And then occasionally, if you didn't have a TV in your room, which was rare, extremely rare, especially when to have cable, you'd have to try to catch it in a common area and then assume like your work schedule will work around it. So it had been a few years until like The Rock had come back to challenge John Cena. He was the host WrestleMania 27. Then I ended up going to WrestleMania 28. We went out there to Miami. So, and then I want to say I got out of it again shortly after CM Punk left. And then there's a gap there as well, obviously, where AEW starts to get fired up. I had started to follow a little bit of like on the fringes of like New Japan, knowing that Cody Rhodes was kind of doing the circuit, going to all these different places. I was super impressed at that time for him to leave and kind of like challenge himself. I thought that was very cool at that particular time. So, with that said, let's talk about what happened this week. Um, I'm way calmer. I had actually kind of talked through this a little bit earlier today, and I was on fire, furious, thinking about it and saying it out loud. And maybe as I talk through it, it'll happen again. But let's start out with earlier in the week before the announcement for WrestleMania. A quote had popped up from Mark Shapiro. He's the president and COO of TKO Group Holdings. If you're not familiar, they're the group that bought WWE, so they own them, UFC. And I don't know who he was speaking with in this particular interview, but they happened to talk about ticket pricing. And if you asked anybody in the world who knows wrestling or anything about it, or even has Netflix with the latest documentaries and everything that popped up relatively earlier this year, the number one villain in wrestling for the last several years, they would say Vince McMahon. And this gentleman happened to actually paint him in the more positive light than anybody had, and for the longest time. So Mark Shapiro again is talking about ticket prices, and this is the quote. Vince knew you could build generations of fans by keeping it affordable. We know we have a lot of room there because Vince McMahon was primarily pricing tickets for families and wasn't totally focused on maximizing the opportunity there. What an absolute douchebag thing to say out loud. It gets this is why it's called Wrestling with Emotions. It almost gets me choked up with fucking anger. Because how could you I mean, I understand. Here's the thing, right? We're not idiots. It's a publicly traded company. The publicly traded company, the number one thing of any business, right, is to make money. To make their shareholders happy. And if that coincides with the fans also receiving a genuine experience that they're able to continue to pay money for, then that's all the better for that particular company. It's not necessarily what's best for the customer. It's best for what is good for the company and what is good for the shareholders that's going to produce to the bottom line. And for the last several years, before even WWE was acquired, they had a large influx of really productive years with different TV deals, different things that they negotiated, obviously with Saudi Arabia as well, for multiple pay-per-views that they had done out there. The largest Royal Rumble or whatever they called it as well. So they know what they're doing in terms of making money. So, I think I mentioned this previously. I was going to go to WrestleMania this year. Number one, it would have been from a convenience standpoint. Vegas is a relatively easy flight, basically anywhere in the country. Somewhat relatively affordable in comparison to some other places. And myself, I have a family out there, so from a convenience standpoint, like I mentioned, I would be able to stay for them. So I wouldn't be out of pocket for really hotels. We could always eat at the house, but of course we'll go out and eat. So, wrestling and meals is what I would and the ticket to fly. But I wouldn't have to worry about hotels, travel in town and stuff like that from a car standpoint. It would have been fine. I was looking at even some of the worst tickets possible. And this is not a secret because the ticket prices, obviously, this is something that had come up. And it's well known that they continue to be on the rise. I forget what I was watching, but I believe it's 140% increase over the average ticket price in general over the last couple of years. So I was outpriced even for that. I mean, not that I was outpriced, but I wasn't going to spend. I think with the time that I was looking, and this is within probably a couple of months still of the event to happen, the nosebleeds were in the thousands, early close thousands, maybe 700s, 700 to 1,000 plus for one ticket. And I was going to possibly, get a ticket for my dad, or somebody, because they had never experienced it. And even though he's not a wrestling fan, WrestleMania is something that is, I think, from a spectacle standpoint, even the most novice or casual person who doesn't care about wrestling at all, it genuinely enjoys at least the experience and the showmanship of what they kind of put on from a spectacle place. I think I mentioned, obviously, my wife coming down for WrestleMania 28. She can't stand it, but she thought it was very cool in person, and obviously that they put on a very, very large production. So all that aside, I wasn't going to do it, and I can't remember if it was last year. I went to a SmackDown live on one of the Fridays, and I forget the floor seat that I had was, I think, over $200. It was not ringside. It was floor adjacent to the ring, back several seats. And here's the thing too, from an on-site or in-person standpoint, the spectacle of even just like a regular Friday show, which used to be like, if you were growing up in the 90s, excuse me, even the early 2000s, mid 2000s, all the way up until maybe the last couple of years, the set pieces were iconic for those individual shows, right? Like, you knew the SmackDown set. I mean, the iconic fist. Those were just, the set pieces were just as big as the show itself. Now they really slimmed it down. You couldn't even see the entrance graphic for the individual wrestler was coming down. And that's standing up. Like, the platform whatever they walk out of is so small now, or at least maybe they fixed it. I haven't really paid attention on a Friday. But the walk-through entrance at a gorilla, non-existent. So I was stuck, even though I had floor seats, watching these events on the big screen in the arena. And I was thinking again, maybe I'll go to Vegas again this year. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to support it. If I did go, I would just go to WrestleCon and some of the adjacent venues, or what is it called? The adjacent events that happen naturally. And we'll talk about that here in a second too. So fast forward, and I just mentioned this year's WrestleMania is also going to be, or 2026's WrestleMania is also going to be in Vegas again. WWE, man, can you make it more obviously that it's only about money? Make it more obvious that it's more just about money. And this fucking clown, Triple H, I can't stand this guy. Yes, maybe the booking and everything is a little bit better from when Vince was running the show, but it's not that much better. This guy and his team are booking moments. They think they're booking storylines. The stories take forever because they have no idea where they're going. So they give you the same stuff every single week. Within a feud, you'll just see people bouncing around and wrestling each other. It's not even about, no one even cares about the wrestling anymore. Okay? I'll touch on that in a second too. This is, like I said, still going to relatively be a short one. So, shortly, I think it was even before WrestleMania this year kicked off. I can't remember, I think. But The Rock had announced that New Orleans was going to be getting the next WrestleMania in 2026. Something happened from a financial standpoint. Boom, they're out. And now they'll get a future WrestleMania. But now Vegas is going to get it again, like I mentioned. So earlier in the week, whoever it is from the Saudi prince or whatever, I don't know who he is, he had leaked, like, basically the day before that they were going to be getting WrestleMania in 2027. And before I go into this too, nothing against the fans in Saudi Arabia. I mean, for them, good for you guys. You know what I mean? I think the crowds have drastically improved. I think the early shows that they did there, you could see for the most part, fans were relatively, I don't want to say quiet, but they were more so reluctant, I think, to celebrate certain things, or, they were on their phone, kind of disengaged to a certain extent. But now I think the crowds have improved, for sure. I think drastically. So for the Saudi fans, good for you guys. I mean, this is going to be awesome. The tough part is if you are, I mean, and I don't know the travel situation, obviously, but if you're an international fan now traveling in there, how tough is that for you? So this basically just came down to money. The WWE stands to make over $100 million from this. That includes being able to do and run the SmackDown and Raws prior to WrestleMania. So you'll be boosting those sales with those shows. But man, what a slap in the face to the average fan. No one wanted this. And here's the thing too. If they and I would say yes, the WWE is a worldwide product, but just like with the NFL expanding into different countries, Brazil, Mexico, Germany, so any other places they've played, they play regular season games there. They put on they put on which become attractions, obviously. You watch them you get up early, especially if you're on the East Coast. You try to put those on. You got guys, everybody in the crowd's wearing a different NFL jersey. It's cool. They're celebrating the fact that football is across the seas, in their stadiums, and it's enjoyable and it's cool for them. Tough, obviously, for the players from a travel standpoint, but the Super Bowl is still in the United States. It's a USA product. And, if there was ever going to be another location that should get first crack at being able to support a WrestleMania that was going to take place for the very first time out of the United States, you know what? That's not fair. Well, because obviously WrestleMania 6 was in Canada. So out of North America, let's say, it would to me it would be London. I mean, some of the truly without a doubt, the greatest fan base in the world. They make or break an event based on some of those crowds. I mean, it is amazing. So imagine a WrestleMania crowd geared up for a WrestleMania. It would be wild. So kind of a bummer that they didn't get the first crack out of that. It's so sad too because whoever either the London, I don't know what they're called, prime minister or somebody, where they're holding that little miniature, that little miniature title belt. I mean, they couldn't even get the guy. They couldn't even get the guy a full size title when he's taking this picture. I mean, good lord, what a joke! What an absolute joke! I forget what they had held there. It was either Money in the Bank or another pay per view. And I'm not against the pay per views and everything being in different locations throughout the year. But man, come on, man, make WrestleMania local to the U.S. It's a destination. And here's one of the other things that kind of gets lost in the sauce here a little bit when something like this happens, because of course as a fan you immediately just go to like the sellout nature of what everything's going on. And Triple H with this fucking tweet the day before, we're gonna change the game again. Shut your mouth. Shut up. You're not changing the game. You're taking $100 million to ship your product overseas. Give me a break. You're not doing anything. You're peddling out the same bullshit. They're not building stars there either. They're not building anybody. All the criticism that they fire across the fence to some of these other promotions, they are terrible at building up new stars. Name me a star on their roster that they've helped develop, besides Dominic Mysterio, possibly. And here's the thing: there's incredible talent in WWE. Rhea Ripley, Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns, obviously. All the big names are great, okay? But it is disappointing how this guy just goes out of his way to backhandedly seemingly make everything about himself. And that's sickening to watch. So what gets lost here, though, is, and if you're not familiar with this and you just watch WrestleMania for what it is, WrestleMania season is gigantic for the entire wrestling industry. Outside of the WrestleMania event itself, all these independent promotions from across the country congregate in and around the cities in which these events take place. They host events. They have, um, matches. They have their own pay-per-views. They have their own shows. There's conventions. There's signings. There's all kinds of things that go on throughout the week that just brings in tremendous income to all these wrestlers associated in the business. And now you're stripping them of that opportunity. I don't and cannot foresee a lot of these independent promotions and WrestleCon and all these other organizations being able to ship their product all the way over to Saudi Arabia. Now, High Spots does have a London-based group, so as far as WrestleCon is concerned, they could always try to put something on and get something going over there. But at the same time, is how imagine the cost to fly in all that talent that's coming in for signings. It's got to be astronomical. So it's very tough to swallow. And as a fan, you've continuously told me how I will follow you based on your pricing, no matter what it is. You've mentioned that families are not important from a pricing standpoint. You just want the money and the high value players. You just want the celebrities ringside. You just want the whoever's got a new Netflix show popping up on your program to promote whatever. You want any sponsor with a name under the sun plastered over anything that has a camera view. There's less time for matches. There's more time for backstage. And I get it. Maybe it is the newer generation of wrestling fans. I was talking to a guy that I work with, and I said, hey man, you should do yourself a favor and buy the pay-per-view for Forbidden Door. Pick up Forbidden Door over the weekend, and let me know what you think. He texted me, he was watching it, and then we connected during the weekend. He said, genuinely, and this is not hyperbole, he said it's one of the best things that he's watched in the absolute longest time. It was great, top to bottom, super exciting. Even some of the matches that he would not typically care for, like the steel cage match, like the 4-on-4 or 6-on-6, whatever it was. Typically, he wouldn't care about that, but he thought it was well organized and just done extremely well, and really enjoyed himself watching it. However, he said his preference is still WWE because he prefers to watch the backstage segments, the soap opera aspect of everything. And I get that to an extent. I mean, the storytelling is what captivates and keeps you going. But as a kid and as someone growing up watching it, like, you watch all the promos, you hear all the talk, you hear all the hype to get you to that payoff of that match. And that's where everything comes to a boil. Here, the match is extremely secondary to the build, which is tough because every week feels the same. I mean, how many weeks in a row are you going to watch Seth Rollins come out and cut a promo? How many weeks in a row are you going to see Becky Lynch come out and cut the same promo on CM Punk and slap him around? It's like, it is a slap in the face to the fans, and it's insulting as someone who does love this genuinely and has multiple times throughout my life. So I would say let me know what you think in the comments, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of the same sentiment in terms of how I'm feeling about it and how you're feeling about it. But as for the future state, I'm going to still keep in touch with certain things because I can't, I still follow, at least I know what's going on, at least the main event scene with WWE. And I am interested to see from a future programming standpoint what they end up doing with AJ Lee. What kind of matches are we going to get with her and current talent? Because I think the assumption, or at least what they kind of portrayed, was that she signed a deal, a longer term deal. So this is going to going to go beyond this mixed tag match at WrestlePalooza over the weekend, and we'll see what ends up happening future state with that. But just disappointing, honestly. And if I'm somebody else if I'm I don't know, if I'm somebody who is on the indies, would I want? Nah, I probably would want to. I was going to say, would I want to go to WWE? And that's because I hold a place in my heart for it as a kid, where it was the greatest thing in the world. But if I'm a professional now and I want to showcase what I can do, man, I want to go to AEW because I know I'm going to get a chance to showcase from a talent standpoint what I can actually do. Sorry, but like I said, let me know what you think. Give us a listen on Spotify. We're on YouTube, of course, as where hopefully maybe you're seeing this. So give us a subscribe, hit that like button, throw some comments in there, please. But yeah, as far as what is upcoming, I did film a review video for the Mercedes Monet not ringside. The AEW shop exclusive figure came in with her entrance robe and her additional entrance jacket. I just need to edit and put that up, and of course, people have probably seen this 100 times by now, but I will throw that together and I will show you guys that. And then I do have some plans coming up in October. I'm gonna do a lot more movie reviews for the season. It's my favorite time of the year. So much more to go from. If you like and enjoy the movie reviews, hopefully some of those are going to be coming up for you relatively soon. But I appreciate you listening. I know this is another negative rant, but there is so much good going on out there. And I encourage you, if you are a wrestling fan, to dip your toe in other organizations. See what's out there. The competition is what makes the product better. If you don't like AEW, that's fine. Watch TNA, even though they have that deep partnership with WWE. Whatever. It's an alternative. Watch Ring of Honor, even though that's partially AEW, obviously, as well. But it'll give you exposure to different people. Watch New Japan. Watch Stardom. Watch all these other. Watch AAA. Watch. I'm blanking, but there's the point is there's a lot out there, and I challenge you to give it a look, because I think you'll like what you see, and it'll make you appreciate the business even more. So do me a favor, like I said, like, subscribe. I appreciate you guys listening. Enjoy the week, and we'll see you soon.
Out in the ring where we throw down, heartbeats racing, can't slow down. Feel the tension, feel the heat, emotions hitting on repeat. Wrestling win with our inner fight. In the spotlight every night. Voices shout and bodies clash. In this world emotions crash. Tangled up in thoughts we spin, in the chaos we begin. Finding strength that's deep inside, facing fears we cannot hide. Wrestling win with our inner fight. In the spotlight every night. Voices shout and bodies clash. In this world emotions crash. Every grapple, every hold tells a story to be told. Raw and real and full of fire, pushing through the darkest mire. Wrestling with our inner fight. In the spotlight every